Hi everyone, my name is Oluwafemilola Feintola Ojejiran. I'm here to talk about the role and responsibility of a registered nurse. The NHS was founded in 1948 after publication of the NHS Act. At the time, nurses were trained on the job in hospitals, were often regarded as assistants to doctors with little responsibility and were almost female. Shortly after the introduction of the NHS Act, nurse education was stripped from hospital and moved into universities, transforming the career into all graduated profession. Nurses were taught to encourage their patients to lead a healthier life by providing information and support. This came about after government statistics revealed many patients were suffering with preventable illness related to poor lifestyle choices. Now, I would like to explain in a very simple way what this means. This means that in the past, people were like working and being trained how to become a nurse while they're working. And then, because they were not having that standard, the quality the doctors or the government they needed then, they were like having less job to do while at work. And as time goes by, lot of things were coming up, and they thought it would be nice for the nurses to go on training. They should have to go on to go to the university and acquire more knowledge, and that was why it was being stripped from the hospital and it was being moved to the university. And they started going into the university to learn more about different courses on the area of specialization. And and then they were like going to read and get enough information about the nursing. This came about after the statistic reveal that a lot of people are having poor health and they were suffering. So from unpreventable illness. So people were advised to go to the university to read more about the area of specialization and for them to be able to grow and understand exactly what it takes to be a registered nurse. So I moved down to the evolving role of a registered nurse. Multiple policies and legislations were introduced and updated after 1990, which impacted the roles of a registered nurse, patients, and the wider community as a whole. Starting with the NHS and Community Care Acts, which give nurses more responsibility for business procedures and budgets, including management. As a result, NHS hospitals and community trusts learn to manage themselves from within. This started the snowball effect of changes of nurses, midwives, and wider community. Between 1992 and 1993, the Department of Health reviewed policies leading to nurses being given right to prescribe medication for minor illness and injury in health promotion and palliative care roles. In 1990, the impacted roles of the registered nurses, patients, and the wider community as a whole was started with NHS and community health. And this gave the nurses more responsibilities and, helped the hospitals to be able to learn on how to manage themselves, because they thought that, oh, if we could like give the nurses a way to prescribe their medication, this will help and it will fasten the space, as in make the work go so smoothly and faster. The nurses were then given that opportunity to be able to prescribe medication to minor injuries and minor illness. That's it. As in, if you have little illness, the nurse can prescribe medication for you rather than going through the long process of seeing a doctor or seeing your GP in most cases. So the new responsibility was well received in the medical industry. Nurses were able to make one of the contribution to the patient's outcome. Starting in 2000, prescribing nurses were working in A&E. What the prescribing nurses were the ones that give out medication. They call them prescribing nurses because they were been given the authority to prescribe medication, and they were both work. They were allowed to work in accident and emergency departments and GP practices. And by 2003, the government added its further 60 drugs to the nurse prescribers. They added 60 more drugs for the nurses, 60 more drugs for minor injuries and minor illness that they thought the nurses could be able to handle and work with perfectly. So that was introduced along with it. The modern agency was founded in 2001 to redesign and expand the skill and role of all health professionals. The professionals allowed nursing role to be matched with skill and competence, and the outcome has been an improvement in patient care and job satisfaction. Nurses will be nurses will be assessed on their honesty, competence, ability to problem solve and coordinate care. They were able to assess nurses when they were for their competence, their honesty, their ability to solve problem and coordinate, and to be able to work as a team and to work under stress, because most times they want to see your ability to be able to cope when you have a lot of things or going on around you at the same time, and as a nurse, and you'll be able to deliver perfectly. So nurses will be assessed on, and so shortly after then, in 2010, the NMC standard for pre-registration nursing education, which will prepare nurses to take a range of role, including leadership position. The NMC standard would also dictate that nurses will respond to changing needs, development, priority, and expectation in rapid changing environments. So after all of this, the Nursing and Midwifery Council came up. This was brought up in 2019. The Nursing and Midwife Council, a regulatory body for nurses and midwives in the UK. And this was founded in 2021 under the Nursing and Midwifery. The purpose of NMC is to maintain a register of nurses, midwives, and health visitors through setting and monitoring standard of education practice and conduct, and through handling complaints about misconduct. Whenever there is any misconduct in the nursing circle, they will report you to NMC, you're going to lose your license. So this is what they're talking about here, about misconduct and unfitness to practice of those unregistered. To enter into NMC register, newly qualified nurses must meet the NMC eligibility requirement to take the test of competence. Once confirmation of eligibility is received, applicant must register and pay to the tests. You pay to the NMC Council, that's the Nursing and Midwifery Council. You pay to them, and when your payment go through, and after checking all your certificates and all that you've gone, and after sitting down for the exam with the person, then you are free to be a nurse. That means you are qualified to be called a nurse under NMC. And then when that is done, you should know that you have to take your job so seriously, and know exactly what we're doing, and that is why it was called a regulatory body, because they regulate all activity within the nursing homes, hospitals, and anything that involved the nurse and the nurses. So that is the NMC. And the NMC code here, the code contains professional standard that register nurses, midwives, and nursing associates. The code exists to hold NMC registered nurses, midwives, and nursing associates accountable for action, to hold you accountable for action, particularly when they fall short of their professional standard. I mentioned that earlier. The reason why they call them regulatory body was because if you as a nurse fail to do what is expected of you, you could lose your license, and it's vice versa. If you have a problem as well, you're being cheated or one way or the other, the NMC, they're there to stand for you. So, but majorly, the role of NMC is a regulatory body. They look after you look after your service user, you look after your clients as well. Make sure you work diligently. As a nurse, you have to deliver diligently. So the limited resources. So here the the code is written in law. Don't forget that. Occurrence of poor staffing, unprofessional attitude, or limited resources are example of circumstances where professional working could be compromised. Did you get that? Where unprofessional attitude or limited resources are example of circumstances where professional working could be compromised. When you don't have all of these things, poor staffing, unprofessional attitude, unlimited, all these things can compromise, you know, working professionally. Failure to comply with NMC code can result in disciplinary action. So please note that it is very important to know why you were called, you're being called a qualified nurse. The clinical governance within the NHS monitor education and training, clinical auditing, clinical effectiveness, research and development, and risk management, etc. So communication skills are very, very important. You should be able to communicate to anyone around you in a way that they would understand. And that's exactly what we're trying to talk about here when we say communication. While supporting individuals' needs and rights of the patients, you should be able to speak clearly, you should be able to listen, and you should be able to respond to people in a way that they will understand you. And this comprises this nurses are required to obtain and record consent, which is both informed and understood, and should explain to people about how that information will be used. Information sharing can only be tolerated within the law. Set out in section 5 of the NMC code. This is set out. Nurses are taught to demonstrate three key aspects of effective communication: professional communication, provision of information, and handover. These three things are key words. They are key aspects of effective communication: professional communication, provision of information, and handover. All of these things, there's no way you can escape it. You see them on your daily to day activities. When you are at work, when you're communicating with your co-staff, you must be able to communicate in a way they will understand. When you are dealing with a service user, you should be able to communicate in a way that they will understand. If you're doing your handover, you should be able to give your handover in a way that people around you understand. When you are liaising with all other bodies, you should be able to speak or communicate in a way that they will understand you. So, going to this multidisciplinary teamwork. Multidisciplinary teamworks are fantastic for patient outcome for many reasons. For example, cross-fertilization of ideas, professional knowledge and experts can be shared and facilitated. Healthcare settings require many different care and medical discipline to work together. It is imperative for communication skills, in particular, for all staff to be at their best, as without this, the team may not work well together and may not meet the need of the patient. The key to success is teamwork. In a multidisciplinary team starts with an agreed approach in which everyone works within their own scope of practice. Each member must be able to commit to support the team and cooperate with mutual respect. Exactly. The There should be a focused goal and agreed framework to review progress towards that goal. Finally, the team should have a responsible coordinator responsible for overseeing the treatment plan for the patients. Holistic models in holistic models in nursing care. The nursing role in the multidisciplinary team is more than just caring for the patients. Registered nurses will use different tools to work in partnership with the patients, making the patient central to the care and the care they receive. Today, nurses follow a path of interrelated stages to coordinate multidisciplinary teamwork. You know, nurses diagnose using clinical judgment, planning, and all of that. The success of the nursing process depend on the quality of relationship built in between nurse and the patient. So, recommendations. I discovered that the government continue to implement new rules. The nursing business has undergone numerous changes, making an event timeline and official on the official website has been real helpful. Then conclusion here. The numerous medical advancements were accomplished during the end of 19th century in the early 20th century. The task responsibility for person working in the healthcare and medical field has evolved along with the medicine. Nurses aspire to collaborate with members of the team, experts from various field. The NMC exists to impose a level of competence across the nursing and the offer structure. Within the 50,000 additional nurses and the 40 hospital, it will be intriguing to see what happen next for the future of NHS and the nursing profession. In 2020, the government cleared over 13 billion of NHS debts to keep the NHS debt free and promised to have more of 5,000 new nurses and to have more hospitals. The new nurses roles are, and confirm that, and to have 40 hospitals to be built in 2020. This is all I have to tell you about the nursing and about the roles and responsibilities of the nurse. Thank you very much.